local party.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the Darkling Chronicles. Okay, I'm trying again with this episode because I did record it already on Friday night and I didn't set the microphone to the right microphone. So the sound was terrible and I thought I can't put it out because it just wouldn't be fair on you guys. So I thought, you know what? It's okay. These things happen. I decided to go down the beach today. I went down there with my sister and my nephews. The waves were absolutely massive today. So I jumped in the sea and they were basically just beating the hell out of me. Waves so big, like right over my head. But it was so much fun because I could dive in them. No one came in with me. I mean, to be fair, my youngest nephew is 4, so he couldn't really do it. It was a bit too brutal, even for adults. And my eldest nephew, he's 12, so it was still a little bit crazy for him, to be fair. But we played ball, just relaxed. And I thought, you know what, I'll try and do this episode tonight again. And if I can get it out tonight, brilliant. If I can't, it just is what it is. Tonight's episode's about time slips. And it just goes off of the story that I shared the other day from a guy called Alan Coe. He sent me a story from when he was 20 years old and he was with his girlfriend. And then I think they were with like 2 of their friends as well. So it's like a double date. They drove 10 miles out of Birmingham City, went to this like quiet little area in the middle of nowhere with this pub. They walked in and people were being served beer out of like tankards and not glasses. And they say it was just like there was really weird table games going on, like cards and all kind of old school kind of stuff. And they sat down, but I guess they got a weird vibe. So they went back out again. As soon as they got outside, they said that everything was really hustle and bustle. There were planes going over. There was sound from the road that was miles away. They turned around and this establishment that they just walked out of, this pub, was now like this bustling place that was alive with people. I guess it was a bar, but it wasn't a pub anymore. It was just this neon sign outside and they could not figure out what on earth had happened. So just going on from that, I thought, let's do some more time slip stories because they are fun. I have got a couple that are just quite short and I've got a couple that are just really, they leave you scratching your head, just like what on earth has happened here. And one of them that I've got for you is just crazy. It takes you on a whole journey. It's wild. Before I start tonight's episode, I want to let you guys know that I have started my own Reddit page. The reason I've done this is because I share a lot of stories and I know a lot of people have questions about them. And I thought, how cool would it be if we can have all the stories in one place? Obviously, people are still going to message me. That's absolutely fine. I've got no issue with that at all. But I thought if we can start a place where these stories can kind of like hang out, you guys can like talk to each other and ask each other questions. I don't want any rudeness in there. So I will just block people without any warning if anyone's rude in there. Not that you lot will be, but I'm sure we'll get some passers-by or just some idiot. But I just really wanted to create a safe space for people to go who believe in the paranormal or who question it and just want to chat to people about it, tell them something. Like a lot of people that message me are skeptic, but they have had an experience, which I know is like contradictory, but it happens because it's really hard for the human mind to comprehend what you've seen, and that's totally fair enough. But even they might want to put stuff in there, and then the people who obviously know a bit more about the paranormal can write to them and tell them what they think it is, that kind of stuff. I really want to build a community in there. It's obviously going to be a slow burner. I don't think anyone's written in it at the moment, which is fair enough. It's just going to be one of those things that's kind of left for you guys to add in there if you want to. I will be in there replying to people as and when I can get in there. So yeah, it's a really cool little place. Go and use it. It's totally free. It's just for you. You can attach stories, videos, all kinds of stuff. And if you want to write about time slips in there, you can. Or you went somewhere creepy and you think you've caught something in a picture, but you're not sure what it is, just talk to everyone about it. Like, it would be so lovely just to build that kind of community. So the link for that is in the description if you want to go and check that out. Also, on Apple podcasts, it's really strange, that platform. I can't go in and write back to people who've left lovely reviews on my podcast. I can in Spotify, but not in Apple. So I just want to thank the people. I think there's about 5 people in there who've written a really lovely review for me. I saw them the other day. I didn't know they even existed in there because it doesn't notify you. There's no place when you sign in that actually directs you to that and tells you at all that there are really lovely reviews in there. So I saw them, the other night, and I'm just so grateful for them. They're really lovely. Anyway, it's time to shut off. Do whatever you're doing, whether you're commuting. I hope that you'll have a lovely day if you're commuting. Work's going to be fine. You've got this. Do not worry. Okay. If you're just chilling, you've got a day off and you're nice and relaxed, I love that for you. Amazing. Whatever you're doing, I'm so happy you're here with me. Let's now just chill out and read some of these weird time slips because they are weird and I love them. Now, this first one is from Raging Ball of Fury. That was basically me this week, by the way. I've calmed down now. The sea has made me serene. Before I was not. And I wrote it 2 years ago, and they say, my dad told me this story. He was 15 when he migrated to the US looking for a better life. He was walking on the side of the road mid-November, so it was very cold. He was hungry and there were no cars passing by, so he had no one to ask for a ride. It started raining and the sun started to set, so he got scared on top of being cold and hungry. He said he got on his knees under a street lamp and started praying for the night to be over. The same moment he said amen to finish his prayer, he felt a hand on his shoulder. He quickly dried off his tears with the back of his hand and looked up to a policeman standing in front of him with a very worried face. He took a look around and then at himself. His clothes were dry and it was almost midday because the sun was high up in the middle of the sky. To this day, he has no idea what happened to him. The officer asked him if he was okay and gave him a ride to a nearby shelter after buying him a burger. Both the guy that picked him up and his partner didn't believe my dad had spent the entire night under the street lamp. They had passed by the same place a few hours earlier and didn't see him. That's so bizarre. How do you just deal with normal life after that? How are you able to just process that? I guess maybe after all these years he hasn't processed it. It's like real life Outlander, apart from people aren't slipping through big rocks. They're actually just slipping through time, apparently. This next one is from someone who deleted it, and it's from 2 years ago. And they say, last Monday night, I was watching the M&F game, and I get up to warm up supper, basically leftovers. I was still watching from the kitchen, and all of a sudden, the play that had just happened seemed familiar. I stopped cooking and just watched the game, kind of freaking out. I had seen these plays while sitting and watching the game, but they were replaying again. I asked if anyone noticed about it repeating, but no one had. And my wife was watching as well. I started calling out what was going to happen, and it would happen. They all gave me weird looks when I called the catch and run for a run to the goal line. I even called out the mascot waving a sign to the crowd. A short while after that, it stopped, and I have no idea what happened. That's a bit of a weird one, isn't it? The next one is from Mind Smog, and they write, time slip I experienced many years ago. This person says, I've never told this story before, but I've been thinking about it a lot recently and wondered if anyone else has had something similar happen. It started when I was a lad. I was sat on a bus going down a hill on my way home from a friend's house. I looked out the window to my right and shockingly saw me, but older, walking up the hill. For a second, we both stopped and looked directly at each other, and then it was gone. For the next few weeks, I thought about this and wondered if I saw a lookalike or did I imagine it. I couldn't make sense of it all. About 10 years later, I find myself walking up the same hill, and as I saw a bus coming down the hill, I knew what was coming. I saw my younger self on the bus as it passed me, and in a second the bus had vanished. At least I now know what I saw was real. But how or why could this be possible? I've been back to that place many times to see if anything triggers, but sadly, it does not. I actually got a similar story to this a little while ago, and I shared it on my TikTok. It's probably on my Instagram as well. But this guy basically said he was a young boy and he was in the bathroom, and he came out the bathroom, and on the stairs in front of him was this like man that he didn't recognize. He said he thought it was him, but he wasn't sure. He shouldn't have been in his house, basically. And as he was staring at this man on the man on the stairs was staring at him in the same disbelief, and the man on the stairs just disappeared in front of him. And then he goes on about his day or whatever. Anyway, when he's older, he's at his dad's house and he's running up the stairs, the house he grew up in. He's running up the stairs and he sees a little boy come out the bathroom. And the little boy stares at him, and then they're both staring at each other. And this time the little boy fades. How is that possible? Like, what on earth is going on there? I don't understand how that's possible, but so many stories like this are coming out. There's loads. You might know someone who's got one, or you might have heard one yourself. I've got to say that out of all the messages I thought I received, it wouldn't be one like that. But I think that's brilliant. And it's like there are just so many dimensions operating at the same time. And we must have different fragments of our soul that are just living all of these different lives. But what I find fascinating though is I thought that every time you kind of reincarnated or you came back here, you chose sort of like a different life, a different character to play, different lessons to learn. But these people are seeing themselves. So it's like maybe we choose to come here and have an experience in multiple dimensions with the same character. And then when they all die, we come back as another one. I don't know. I'm not sure. I've got to tuck my hair behind my ear because it's so hot in this room. It's unbelievable. It's unbearable. What do you think that's about? And how do you think that's possible to happen? I would love to know your thoughts because I'm just over here scratching my head on that one. Now, this next story, right? It's crazy. It takes you on a whirlwind adventure and you won't know your ass from your elbow after I finish reading it to you, simply because you're like, what? What the hell just happened? You're going to experience it all. And it's okay to go through these motions. Bear with it, lock in, because it is a great time slip story. We don't know if it's true. Obviously, this is Reddit. However, this person seems like what they say, the story they tell will make you think it's a lie. So you're going to have to decide what you think about this. Let me know after I've told you it in the comments what you think. So this person wrote this 5 years ago and their name on Reddit is MWMN19. And the title was called, I experienced a time slip during my vacation in France. I saw the past and the future. Do, 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 do. Now this bloke starts by saying, I know what you're thinking. You've heard stories like this time and time again. And to be honest, yes, most of them are probably fake. But bear with me. What I've experienced felt, at least to me, very real. It could have been a dream of sorts for all I know, but I had never had a dream so realistic before. And I hadn't ever had one ever since. And for a long time, I had the urge to share my story. And I finally decided now is the time. I have nothing better to do since I'm in quarantine. So yeah. Well, this must have been written in the lovely time that was the pandemic. So, of course, 5 years ago. God, time flies, doesn't it? And he carries on by saying, I was visiting France at the time, Bordeaux to be specific. It was around May 2018, if I recall correctly. It was a city in the southern part of the country, which had a lot of history. The region in which the city stands today had been inhabited since around the 5th century BC. Alongside many of its landmarks and old buildings, the city held a personal tie with me. My great-grandparents on my mother's side moved from here to Canada around the 1900s. So you could say this was my ancestral homeland in a way. This was more or less the main reason why I visited the place. I had planned on visiting Paris, but I cancelled those for reasons I'll let you know soon enough. I was visiting my then girlfriend, and she urged me that we visit Paris first and then go on my little pilgrimage. She always wanted things her own way, and she always let her frustrations out in a demeaning and insulting way. That's why I broke up with her only a few months after coming home. I'm going off on a tangent now, sorry. Ultimately, I got my way and we went to Bordeaux. The stay wasn't all that interesting. She wanted us to go shopping and I wanted to go on walks and explore the old parts of the city. In the end, we compromised. She went to do her own thing and I went to do mine. After a while, I decided to rent a car because why not? I had wanted to get a taste of the French countryside. I drove outside the city for a few hours, contemplating my life choices. Around 5 or 6 in the afternoon, I found myself in a small town outside of Bordeaux. The town's name was Libourne. I've probably butchered that, but I'm sorry if I have French people listening. He says, I remember parking my rented Renault on a narrow street. I barely found a parking space, but alas, after I parked the car, I decided to get something to eat from a small bakery and took a seat on a bench under a tree. The place in which I found myself was right next to the river Dordogne, overlooking an old-timey bridge. You can find the exact place where I sat on Google Maps, actually. The street is called Quai Général de Marde. I will put that in the description because I probably butchered it, but you guys can have a look at it if you want to. He says, I was sitting near where the bicycles were. If you search it up, you'll know what I'm talking about. But I digress. After eating my meal, I leaned back and closed my eyes. I felt heavy and really tired. I was out of breath despite not exerting myself in the slightest. It wasn't too crowded, but I could hear the activity around me. People were walking past me, talking, etc., and there was a gentle breeze that blew. Then suddenly, stillness overcame me and my surroundings. I couldn't open my eyes. There was complete and utter silence. Even that gentle breeze was gone. After what felt like ages, I opened my eyes, and to my surprise, everything was different. No longer was I in a quaint French town, but a vast plain with some farmland around me. I could see the river, but it was farther away than before. There was little to no infrastructure around me. The bench on which I was sitting was still there, though. I looked around myself in confusion, muttering to myself, what the actual But before I could even finish my sentence, I could hear a loud bang in the distance. Then another. I stood up from the bench, my fight or flight kicking in despite the probable danger being far away. Then I heard something whiz past my head, above me. That was shortly followed by multiple explosions that flung dirt into the sky. I jumped to the ground, holding my head, and just when I thought I was safe, I could feel the ground under me trembling. I looked up, and from the direction of the impacts, I saw horses. I shouted as if on reflex. It looked like a damn cavalry charge, and I was pretty sure there weren't any reenactments in this area. I looked around to see where I could hide, but it was too late. I had to hunker down and hope for the best. I laid down on my stomach and closed my eyes. I could feel the trembling ground shake even more as more bangs and impacts surrounded me. And when the time came for me to be trampled by the cavalry, everything went silent again. I held my position for about a minute out of fear. I could sense a presence near me as if someone was watching me. I could hear the chirp of the birds, and even laying on the ground, I felt as if the grass was taller around me than just a few moments prior. I finally got the courage to open my eyes. I looked up and saw I was now surrounded by woods. I was in a forest. And that feeling of being watched was correct, because in front of me were three people staring at me. They were about 20 meters away. Behind them was a thick bush of some kind. They wore hide and looked like cavemen. They had spears in their hands. I would say they were shorter than me, but much, much bulkier. They had strong brows. They looked like perfect representations of a Neanderthal. I slowly stood up, not breaking eye contact with these three figures. When I stood up, I saw they took a step back. I could see them looking at each other and muttering something in an unfamiliar language. I am not fluent in French by any means, but when I hear French, I know it's French. And even though they were quite far to discern the words, the guttural language they spoke was not French, I can assure you. As I came to my senses, I decided to try and communicate with the men, at the time thinking maybe they can help me figure out what the hell is happening. In hindsight, it was a lost cause the moment I saw them. Hey, who are you? I said in the most friendliest demeanour I could. After they cocked their heads in confusion, I repeated the same sentence in French, but to no avail. Listen, I don't know what's happening. I think I was kidnapped or drugged. I really need your help. I don't know where I am, I said to all three, who just started speaking to me in the same unfamiliar tongue, repeating the same word multiple times. After some back and forth, I could see them lowering their guard ever so slightly, despite the inability to communicate properly. I was able to convince them I was not a threat. Before I could go on, though, I heard the bushes and the branches behind me start to break and shuffle. I froze, as did the three hairy friends I just made. Well, I hope they aren't planning on killing me. But even if they hadn't, whatever was behind me surely would. I could see the three men stare behind me, spears raised. One of them pointed behind me, shouting, Rubaka! Rubaka, I repeated, confused, and then turned around. I could hear whatever was coming closing in fast. Then I saw it. The huge, hairy, and horned animal was charging through the forest as if on a fucking rampage. Holy mother of fuck, I shouted as I turned around to see the three guys disappear. Wise of them to do so, but I was still left for dead. Bastards. I started running through the forest. I was getting hit by branches every step of the way. I was running blind. The foliage was so damn thick I could barely see what was in front of me. but the adrenaline kept me going. I decided to make a sharp turn to avoid the charge of the wild beast behind me. Luckily, I made the right choice and avoided it. I kept running just to make some distance between me and the beast. Soon enough, I found myself in a clearing. I finally stopped to catch my breath. How is there a fucking mammoth? Fuck. I really needed to work on my cardio. This is a life lesson now. You never know when you're going to get chased by a mammoth, ladies and gentlemen. Alas, I survived. And I thought I had a streak of luck when I saw more people in the distance. They were the same people as before, wearing hide and fur and wielding stone spears. There were 6 or 7 of them now, and they were walking towards me. As they approached, I could see one of them point at me. Thinking I was being saved, I raised my hand and waved. To my surprise, to my horror actually, one of them raised his spear above his head and threw it. And goddamn, he threw it with his good arm, because that thing was lunging towards me at great speed. And from the looks of its trajectory, it would be a clean shot to the chest. No, 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 I quickly said out loud as I put my hands up to protect myself. I once again closed my eyes and waited for my demise. But it didn't come. The sounds around me changed once more, and this time it wasn't the sound of chirping birds and a forest, but of a bustling city. I could also feel the air was different. I opened my eyes and lowered my arms. I was indeed in a city, but it didn't look like a city I am familiar with. It wasn't Libourne. I am sure of it. I looked around and saw a large wall in the distance. The street I stood upon was clean, almost shining. I was surrounded by white skyscrapers on almost all sides. The people were dressed differently. Not all too alien, but still as if the trends changed completely overnight. I was startled by the sound that came from above. It sounded like a swarm of bees above me, a buzzing sound, if you will. When I looked up, I saw a plane. No, it looked like some sort of large car or something. It didn't have any engines a plane would have. No rotors, nothing. It just levitated and sped by at incredible speed. I looked around me to see that no one else was reacting to this thing except for me. I started walking around. I saw all kinds of things that seemed to be right out of science fiction. There was a statue of a holographic person. It's like I was in the movie Back to the Future. I roamed around some more, and I saw that people were staring at me. I dressed in a short-sleeved shirt and shorts, and to complete my look, I was full of scratches from my sprint through the forest. I finally stopped and looked onto one of the skyscrapers. It seemed to have some sort of advertisement on it. I could see the text changing from French to Arabic to Chinese and then to English. Though the spelling was different for some reason, I could still discern it. It was saying something about barriers or walls, if I remember correctly. It was soon followed by a map of the world that was animated, and it showed as the sea levels were rising. I watched as the number at the top went from 2020 to 2,289. It was followed by a company logo. I was confused and horrified. I truly didn't know what the hell was happening. Was I really drugged? What the hell does that bakery put in their sandwiches? Nonetheless, I figured the massive wall in the distance was due to the rising sea levels, maybe. I decided to try to talk to someone, but everyone I stopped just looked at me and muttered something before just leaving me. I was ignored, despised even. I couldn't get why. Is it because I looked like a homeless druggie or something? Do those even exist in this day and age? I decided to walk on some more before stopping near some sort of shop. I figured I could buy something to eat because I was hungry again, but I came to the conclusion my money was no good here. I sat on a bench in a pristine plaza near what looked like some sort of shopping centre. As I was contemplating what happened to me in the last few hours, I suddenly heard screaming nearby. I quickly looked in the direction from which it was coming. People came running out from the mall in panic. I stood up to get a better look at what was happening. People on the plaza quickly started running as well. Many of them were going inside other buildings, and some were cowering in a fetal position on the floor. I didn't know what was happening at all. I saw a man running past me and I shouted at him in English. Hey you, dude, what the hell was happening? The man heard me by some miracle and turned his head towards me, not stopping his sprint. We're under attack, he shouted. By who? What is attacking us? I retorted, but it was too late. The guy already disappeared into the crowd of people. I decided my best bet was to run with the crowd, so I did. Moments later, I could see multiple streaks in the sky that went over our heads in a millisecond. Then I heard multiple explosions. A fucking aerial battle erupted over the city. I tried to get inside one of the buildings, but I didn't know if that was a wise move. but it was hopeless. I saw a beam of light come from the sky. Then I was blinded by an incredibly powerful light. I closed my eyes and shielded them with my hands. I could hear screams around me, the sound of battle in the skies, and then silence. All of a sudden, the light disappeared. I could instantly feel that the air became thinner, as if the amount of oxygen dropped by a hefty amount. I opened my eyes and lit them just for a few moments. To my surprise, I was in the same place. It looked familiar, at least. It was the same city. The main difference was that it was completely void of any life. There were skeletons on the ground around me. Alongside the skeletons were what looked like soldiers in full bodysuits. They had a resemblance to the armour of the Doom guy, at least for me, but they looked much lighter and had a darker colour. I walked around a bit, taking in the absolute destruction of my surroundings. Among the rubble and the human corpses, I even think I found an alien. I mean, it looked like one. It had a full bodysuit and a helmet that masked its entire head. But from the fact it had 4 fingers and legs that bent all the wrong way, I think it's safe to say that it was not human. Hell, maybe it was a genetically modified human for all I know. Alas, my main concern at the time was that I was panting heavily. I could barely breathe. The air was so thin as if I was in a near vacuum. Despite that, I pushed forward. I came near the wall that I saw previously, and which was probably built to hold the ocean back. It had a massive hole, though judging by the fact I wasn't drowning at that moment, told me that I shouldn't be too concerned. But when I got closer, the sight I saw made my very bones tremble. It was a desert. All the way to the horizon it stretched, a never-ending desert. Did the oceans evaporate? What the hell happened? I couldn't even think straight anymore. My brain was starved of oxygen, I could barely breathe, and I was surely on the brink of going unconscious. I sat down on the ground, trying to inhale as much air as I could. Then I saw people, alive, living, breathing people. They looked to be in yellow hazmat suits of sorts. They emerged from the rubble of one of the buildings and held some small devices in their hands. They saw me and started to walk towards me, but I couldn't get a single word out, nor could I do a single gesture. My vision blurred and I passed out. I woke up coughing out water and I was wet from head to toe. As I got to my senses, I saw that I was surrounded by people. When I looked around, I saw a familiar place. The old-timey bridge, the pier, and the weather were the same as when I departed to that hell. I came back, thank God. That's how I'm writing this story to you. As to how I ended up in that river, I don't have a clue. Allegedly, someone said they saw me jump off the bridge. I don't remember doing that. I can tell you that I wasn't suicidal, nor was I sick in any way. I don't consume any drugs, nor am I on any medicine. And I have checked if that bakery had anything to do with it, and they didn't. All in all, I was forced to get a therapist back home because it was thought that I had a mental illness or that I had suicidal tendencies, which I do not. But it took a therapist 3 months to confirm that. I had an urge to share this story. It is one of the weirdest experiences I've ever had. I also have to add that I did indeed have scratches all over my arms and legs, even my face. But it was thought that it was because of the rocks at the bottom of the river, though I highly doubt it. I don't know. Was it the bench that had some magical time-travelling abilities? Was it the baker all along? Or something else entirely? Maybe I am insane, though I don't know it yet, just schizophrenic. I don't have any audiovisual hallucinations. At least I have an interesting tale to tell, a horrifying one, at least to me. Of course, everyone I told this to tells me I'm bullshitting, including my ex-girlfriend. People, be aware of benches in quiet places. They might take you to another world or another time. And the baker, especially the baker, who knows, that guy might have actually put LSD into that sandwich. Alas, thanks for reading. I appreciate it. You don't have to believe me, that's fine. But do be careful out there and have a good one. Goodbye. There's so much here that we need to unpack. First of all, I'm glad that he got his way and he managed to have some sightseeing on his holiday. That's what he wants to do. I think there's 3 types of people on holiday. There's obviously the people who want to go shopping and spend loads of money, the people who want to go and do loads of sightseeing and do activities, and the people who just want to chill. I'm somewhere in between activities and chilling, to be honest. If I'm going on a sunny holiday, I don't want to be walking around in the heat all day, you know? A couple of days, a couple of excursions, fine by me. But it's very bizarre that he experienced this by himself. I will put the name, like I said, in the description so you can have a little look at it. If one of you want to go sit on that bench and see if it transports you to a different world, please come back and let us know because we'll be fascinated to know that. If not, don't worry. Obviously, I wouldn't do that either because I would shit my pants. I don't know what to make of this story. It sounds very detailed, very intense, very dreamlike because we very rarely can die in our dreams. I don't think we can die in our dreams, can we? We kind of do that shock thing and jump and wake up. I mean, he does say at the start that he shuts his eyes and he feels heavy and tired. But I don't understand how you can go from sitting on a bench, having this rapid experience, to then jumping off a bridge. It sounds almost like you've been taken over by something. I'm not sure. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Let me know what your theories are, because it's very detailed, very in-depth, and just very wild. Now, this next story is from someone called This Isn't Happening. It is happening. It is happening. The time slip witnessed by a family of 4. And they say, I've had plenty of time slips in my life. You know, times where the beginning and the end are way further apart than the middle can account for. Like a 10-minute walk taking 4 hours, that sort of thing. I've kept them to myself because, well, I was the only witness. And if we're speculating on something supernatural versus me being crazy, I don't like my odds. This is different though. This was multiple witnesses, same story. It was New Year's Eve. My husband, my 2 kids, 13 and 9, and I were staying at a motel. We planned to watch the fireworks from the balcony at midnight because we were in the city centre and they'd be all around us. But that was hours away. The sun had just set and the sky was a misty purple. I was making dinner, sliders, which at that point were 20 minutes from being done. As I was setting up plates, we started hearing fireworks. I checked my phone for the time. It was a little after 7. The fireworks kept going off in the distance and the kids were getting excited. They went out on the balcony to look and asked me to come out. I kept assuring them they were cool, but the real show started at midnight. I started to wonder myself after a while though. The fireworks just kept going, more rapid than I ever expected for 7 in the evening. I went outside and saw bursts of colour exploding all over the sky. I marvelled at it. If this was 7, what would midnight look like? Then I checked my phone again. It was 12:15 a.m. I couldn't even tell you what I did after that. I was initially disappointed along with the kids and confused along with the kids, but the more we thought about it, the weirder it seemed. We'd all witnessed the sun setting literally an hour earlier. I'd started dinner while it was still light out and it was still hot and just barely ready. I checked the time and did the math from how long it would be while the sky was still purple and the fireworks just kept going. It went from 7 to midnight in a few minutes. I don't know how to wrap this up. I don't even know what to say. I blame it on my phone, like the clock being off. But that can't explain midnight right after sunset. We're in Utah, not the Arctic Circle. My husband works overnight, so he's used to time feeling weird, and that's what he chalked it up to. My son took it in his stride because he's young and time travel is his jam. My daughter and I are the only ones wondering years later, what the fuck happened? She'll bring it up whenever there's a special occasion and I'm cooking. Like neither of us can trust when something should be done anymore. We both wait on events like we might miss it because we both know we already have before. That one's a weird one. I mean, the only thing I would normally say is in the UK, it's spring forward, fall back when the clocks change and we either gain an hour or we lose an hour. And sometimes I can't be asked to change my car clock, so it will just stay the same. It will say the summertime all winter until it gets back to spring again when the time goes right. Generally, I'm getting better at changing it, but sometimes, you know, you're out of sync for an hour for the whole year if you're lazy like me. In this situation, however, iPhones are pretty accurate these days, aren't they? There's no really mishaps or anything that I've noticed with mine. Even when the clocks have changed, it's always saying the right time. So I don't understand. And it's really bizarre that she had 20 minutes for dinner to be done. Dinner wasn't even done. And she put the dinner on as just after the sun had set. So how can dinner still not be done? And yet it's now 12:15 at night. It baffles the mind. It baffles the mind. Please let me know if I'm missing something there. Let me know in the comments. This next one is from Oilburner75 and they've wrote my time slip story. And they say, I was unaware this is what it was called and that it was a thing until about a year ago. I guess they're talking about time slips in general. In the fall of 2018, I was on a solo trip into Georgia buying fenders from a man for a truck I was restoring at the time. I had got to my destination, went to leave and stopped to get gas. Upon entering the gas station, everything was suddenly different. It was an indescribable feeling. Something had changed. I went to pay for my gas and I noticed behind the counter that none of the tobacco products had any warning labels and they all looked very dated and different. And they've put in brackets, I use smokeless tobacco, so I know what to look for. There was no card reader on the counter for credit cards. The prices of things on the racks were a third of what they are today. Designs on the smokeless tobacco cans looked like they were from 1999 or 2000. I noticed all the drinks and sodas in the store also had outdated labels on them. I asked the woman behind the counter why they were selling outdated tobacco and drinks. She handed me a can and said everything was fresh and not out of date, and the date expired July of 2000. At this point, I could not believe what I was seeing. It freaked me out so bad. I drove 20 miles down the road and got gas elsewhere. To this day, I have looked everywhere on Google Maps and cannot locate this gas station. There is simply nothing there. This is the first time I've spoken about what happened since 2018. I stopped telling people about it because people thought I was simply going crazy. Now, what's really weird is in the UK, you fill up your, we call it petrol, before you actually go and pay. So I don't know in this situation if it's different in America where you go and pay for it first and then fill up. But when I read it and saw that this person had left to get gas 20 miles down the road, I was like, well, hang on a minute, have they not just filled up? Surely they can't just leave. So I don't know how that works. I think probably in America, maybe pay for it first. I don't know. But this person's missed a trick here because this petrol station, gas station, is going to be cheap as chips, mate. Get stuck in. Probably 10p a litre. Fill her up. Fill her up to the rafters. And while you're at it, get out your jerry cans and fill those bad boys up too, because this shit's wild. I bet the one down the road cost him an absolute bomb. Anyway, this next story is from Little Katie E, and she's written time slip occurring in our home. And she says, I assumed this was paranormal phenomena at first, particularly a mimic demon, but a comment brought to my attention an alternative explanation that I'm curious as to what people will think. So in the past 2-ish days, there has been some strange things going on in our house. Things just don't add up. The first thing that happened was when I was getting out of the shower. My boyfriend came in as I was drying off and handed me a pair of pants. I thanked him and told him I already had a pair in the bathroom with me. He said jokingly something along the lines of, you yelled at me to bring you these, you better wear them. I assumed he was just being goofy, so I took the pants and told him to get out of the bathroom. The next bit came within the next few hours. My roommate was getting ready for a date and called me to her bedroom to help her zip up her dress. I went into her room to find that there was nobody there. Notably, she'd walked out the bathroom shortly after wearing jeans and a tank top. Nothing that she would have needed my help to zip up. I told her what I had heard and we checked out her room. Her TV and computer were off. We were just confused. Around 11 p.m, my boyfriend and I went for some ice cream and to watch a performer play, and then returned home and fell asleep. My roommate made a comment when we woke up that she could hear us having sex and something along the lines of, you must have been getting good the way that you were shrieking. I asked her earlier today around what time that would have been that she heard us, and she said it was around midnight, which is when we would have been out of the house. Not only that, but we didn't have sex at all that night in question. The last thing that happened was when we were doing our evening meditation, through the closed door, we could hear two people talking. We couldn't make out what was being said, but we could hear the actual talking clear enough. Naturally, I jumped to the conclusion that somebody was in our house. But then someone addressed us directly through the door and said, "Night, y'all," while giggling and walking off. It sounded just like my roommate, and it's worth mentioning that when me and my boyfriend were in bed, that's something that she does say through the door to mess with us. Does this sound like a glitch? Could this potentially be a time slip? Like, do you think it's possible that somehow past and future incidents just found their way here or got caught in transition? I know it sounds a bit far-fetched, but honestly, I don't know. Also, we're having someone check for carbon monoxide tomorrow and someone checking for mold later this week. I think that's really good that she obviously got those things checked. However, I didn't really think of it like this, but she could be right here. It could be like the house. It could be that there is something paranormal going on there, 100%. My natural instinct would always be that it's a mimic or something dark. But it might also be that she did call for those pants in a different reality or something, and her boyfriend heard her in theirs. It could be that a friend has asked her to do a dress up in a different reality. But actually in this one, she's walked out in jeans and a t-shirt or whatever it was. It's very bizarre. What do you think of that? Let me know in the comments what you think of that. It's really cool that she's brought that up, but I am probably more inclined to think that that was paranormal because I know that with paranormal stuff, mimics do that. And the fact that they were talking outside the door and then it sounded like her roommate, I don't know, sounds a bit more paranormal to me. Now, this next story is from someone called Page R1453, and the title is Time Slip Glitch. They were not of this era. I'm a 27-year-old woman, and this happened in 2010 when I was 15, and I remember it as if it was yesterday. So here's my story. Me, my mum, my grandma, and my friend all went to a local coastal town for the day. It's somewhere we've been many times before, at least 3 or 4 times a year because we've got family who live there. She says we always travel the same route through the countryside rather than taking the motorway because we like to stop off at what we call a halfway house to grab a sandwich on the way there and a drink on the way back. We always stop at the same places because it's just part of our routine and what we've always done and enjoyed. On this particular day, everything was normal. We had driven the coast, stopped off for our sandwich, and the sun was shining. It was a normal, lovely day. However, on the way back is when it got weird. We set off mid to late afternoon because we wanted to miss all of the evening traffic and make sure my friend got home at a decent time. The journey felt normal. We travelled on the same roads as we always had and was planning to stop off at the usual pub for a drink. In the space of about 5 to 10 minutes, we noticed the weather had changed. It had changed from being a glorious warm sunny day to being grey, overcast and quite cold. We didn't think much of it, and then my mum said, "Oh, I don't know where I am." Confused, we just said she must have taken the wrong turning, but she was adamant that she'd been on the same road for the last 8 miles, a road that we had travelled countless times. We wondered if the road had been altered since the last time we visited because now none of us recognised the road or the surroundings. We looked for familiar landmarks that would hopefully guide us in the right direction, but there was nothing but fields for miles. We began to notice that the road we were on was very quiet, and we seemed to be the only car along it. Nothing had passed us in what seemed like ages. Me and my friend began to get anxious because of how weird this felt, and we were worried about being lost. My mum calmed us down and said not to worry, and that in the next village we drive through, we will pull over so she can reset her sat-nav. In 2010, phones didn't really have maps or anything yet, not like we do today anyway. About 10 minutes later, we saw a couple of houses in the distance as we approached, and we noticed there was 2 semi-detached houses, a small farmhouse and a yard, and an old-fashioned level crossing for trains, and also a pub. My grandma suggested we pull into the pub so my mum could set her sat-nav and we could have our halfway house drink while we were there to calm our nerves. We entered the pub. It was empty except for an old man in a rocking chair in front of a burning fire. He stopped rocking the chair abruptly and stared at us as we walked in, as if in shock. He was wearing brown work trousers with braces, black boots, a cream shirt with a knitted vest, a flat cap, and was smoking a pipe. We approached the bar. The barmaid landlady was walking behind the bar and halted in her tracks as soon as she saw us, again, as if in shock. We asked if the pub was open due to it being so quiet, and she started, "Oh, yes, it is. What can I get you?" We all asked for soft drinks, me and my friend being underage at the time and my mum being the driver. The lady scrambled around getting us the drinks and then looked baffled when we tried to pay with bank cards. She used paper and a pencil to add up the cost of our drinks, so we paid with loose change to make it easier for her. To the right of us was a narrow staircase, and down ran a little girl around the age of 7 or 8. She was wearing white tights, brown brogue-like shoes, and a burgundy pinafore-style embroidered dress with a hand-knit cardigan, and her hair was in ringlets. I hope I've said pinafore right. I think that's how you say it. She gasped, and she also looked surprised to see us and looked between us and the lady behind the bar, who was presumably her mother. We thanked them and took the drinks outside to one of the wooden tables. The man in the rocking chair began to rock again and watched us intently as we walked out. We sat down outside and with hushed voices we spoke about how weird that whole situation was. We noticed how there wasn't anyone else around, no other cars in the car park, no other people in the pub or the beer garden, and no people walking the streets near the houses. The place seemed deserted, abnormally quiet and stuck in time. We quickly finished the drinks A man in a van pulled up and got out. He got out a pickaxe and a spade out the back of his van and looked over to us and said, "Ooh, visitors," and went inside the pub. We got back in the car as quickly as possible and left. And within a matter of minutes, we were on a road we all recognized, and the sun was shining once again. The whole thing was so bizarre and unbelievable. It's all we could talk about the rest of the journey home. We were trying to understand the situation, the unrecognizable roads, the old timely clothes, and the overall feel of the place, and how the people reacted when they saw us, as if we were aliens. So that's my story. The memory of it is still so clear, and I'll never forget the expressions on their faces. We still talk about it to this day, 12 years later. All of our memories are so clear. It's possibly the strangest experience of my life. And I feel like I wanted to share my story on here to see if others had experienced anything similar and to get some opinions. Thanks for reading. Now, first of all, I thought, hang on a minute, what drinks did they order? Because if this is like going back in the day, they can't go in there and order a Coke, can they? So I'm thinking that maybe they were just told at the bar, like, "Oh, we just have this," and maybe they just picked out of those options. But the one thing that got me as well is like if they paid with change, and this is like really old timely, how did they pay? It might be that this woman behind the bar was just so dumbfounded that she just thought, "I need to get this over with quickly. What the hell is this they're giving me? Whatever, just take it and go." Because it sounds like a really creepy and bizarre experience for all of them who encountered it. So I'm just thinking that doesn't really add up for me, but there could have been explanations to that. I know that as British people, when things get awkward, we just accept anything and we're like, yeah, okay, whatever, let's just pretend this never happened. That's the only thing I can really think of in that situation. But let me know what you guys think. And this is the last story. And it's from someone called Upset Concentrate 667, and it's called My Weird Cinema Time Slip Experience. And they say, "I had a strange experience as a teen I still can't explain today. Keep in mind this was 15 plus years ago. I was really into the movies back then and would regularly, almost daily, visit my local Cineworld in Gloucester, UK. I had an unlimited membership card that allowed me to watch as many movies as I wanted. I got into the habit of watching some of a film, leaving to hang out with friends or do something else, then returning the following day to watch the rest. This is what I did that day. I came in and the entrance area was empty, apart from two members of staff. One was behind the counter and another was sitting on a bench near the podium where you had to hand in your tickets. After getting my ticket for the other half of the film, I walked over to the podium and the woman who was sitting down got up to take my ticket. She pointed me to the doors to the screen where the movie was already playing, right next to her, and I went in. Let me just point out, you can't actually buy a ticket for half a film. He's obviously just timed it right to when he would have left it the previous day and then just gone halfway through the film and bought the ticket and just explained to them there that's what he's doing. I don't want people thinking that the UK has got some weird kind of like cinema setup. So then he says, "What I found, however, was an empty screen, no people, no movie, and the lights on. Confused, I assumed she had pointed me to the wrong screen or something. So I left the screen, still holding the door open, and told the woman that there was no movie and it was empty. She exclaimed, 'Really?' With a look of disbelief on her face. She walked past me through the still open door. I turned to follow her when I noticed the lights were off. As I got to the back of the seating area, the film was blatantly playing and people were in their seats. She looked at me as if I was an idiot who wasted her time and then left. And I gave her an awkward thank you as she passed, like she had somehow fixed it. I stood there for a few moments trying to put everything together logically in my head. I failed to do so and then went home. That's my time slip story. I have no idea if it's actually time travel, a hallucination, an elaborate practical joke, a glitch in the matrix, or even swamp gas hitting a weather balloon. Either way, they moved location to a new shopping centre nearby not long after that." Now listen, if that cinema's moving, do you reckon they know something's going on in there? They could possibly know, couldn't they? They might have had some weird experiences themselves. Because it's no easy thing to move a cinema, is it? You don't just do it like willy-nilly. You've got to plan that, you know? Anyway, I found all of these stories tonight really interesting. I would love to know your thoughts on them. Maybe we can debunk some of that. Maybe you can tell me little points that didn't really sit right with you or that you were fascinated by. I would love to know your thoughts and theories on the situation because I think time slips are just something that we really struggle to get our head around because a lot of us don't experience them. the lady who had the fireworks situation, she actually wrote that she'd had a few of these time slips. That must be really daunting to her. I would actually like to sit down and have a conversation with her about the others that she witnessed, because she's like, when the start to the end is a bit further than the middle can account for. I'm just like, hang on a minute. What does that even mean? Like, where did you go this whole time? Were you missing for hours? What happens? I know that when you get these abduction stories, people have gone missing for hours, but that makes sense because aliens. What is a time slip and why would you go for so long? Like, why did that guy who was in France end up sitting on a bench just closing his eyes, and then next thing he knows, he wakes up in water trying to spit it out so he doesn't drown? It's fascinating, isn't it? But if you know of anyone with a time slip story, or you've got a time slip story, you can email me, the Darkling Chronicles 25@gmail.com. I will put everything you need in the description. I hope you've enjoyed tonight's episode. I will be trying to find out what the hell this goat man is soon. I'm going to put it in and see if I can get some history on it, see if I can get some stories from the Appalachian Mountains about it, and figure out what the hell is happening, because I want to know more about that. If you're wondering what I'm talking about, it's the Appalachian stories that I recently did. If you haven't heard that episode, go and listen to it because it's weird as hell. This guy is like stood out on his deck in at his grandma's house. I say guy, he was a young boy, I think. And the lightning struck and he saw this figure. And every time the lightning struck, this thing got closer to him. And he went in and told his grandma, and she was like, got his dad straight away and was like, right, son, you need to lock all of the doors and windows. And the next day they found something just ripped open. And his uncle, who lived down the road, had all of the chickens' heads bitten off and the blood drained from them. And his auntie called it the goat man and basically had to go at him for bringing it up in front of her kids. So you need to go and listen to it. It's a really good episode, actually, because I just love these stories. They're so like mystical, aren't they? I'm really drawn in by everything that's like lore, paranormal, cryptids, all this kind of stuff that's just beyond our grasp, just beyond our reach of like ever being able to confirm as to whether it's real or not. Because obviously now with the introduction of AI, it's hard to even discern this even more. But I want you guys to be excited because I've also started to receive so many more ghost pictures, ghost videos, ghost stories. And a lovely lady from Nashville has sent me a video of what I believe looks like Spring-Heeled Jack. If you don't know what Spring-Heeled Jack is, go give it a Google. Or Uncanny have actually just done an episode on it. It's coincidentally, she just sent it to me and I was like, this is crazy. So I'm going to be doing a lot of recording the next couple of days, getting you some more juicy stories on TikTok and Instagram over the next few weeks. Hopefully you enjoy them. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. I'm going to go and make a jacket potato because I am absolutely starving. And yes, I'm having so much butter, I'm having baked beans, and I'm having too much cheese. So much cheese. And it's extra strong cheese too, because I don't mess around with all this mild shit. It's got to be strong. If you're new here, by the way, thank you for listening to me blab on. And thank you all for following me. Everything is growing and going crazy. I'm getting a little bit scared about it, to be honest. And just a shout out to my work friend, Sarah. She's probably going to be like, oh my God, why are you mentioning me? But because my Instagram is now on like 20.5 thousand people, and my TikTok's on 14.5. Instagram is just taking off. And it's scaring me. It is really scaring me because I'm like, hang on a minute. Do I want people to know who I am? Do I want people to see me? Like, what am I doing? Why have I actually started sharing these ghost stories? Like, am I okay? I don't have any inkling in my body to be famous. I'm a really private person. I don't really know what I'm doing. And I'm like, why did I start this? And it's like, this voice in my head was just like, because it's fun. But then I spoke to Sarah about it over Teams at work last week. And she was like, your brain is basically just designed to keep you safe. Of course, the more people find your page, the more you're going to feel that you're in danger. And it just made sense. And I needed to hear that. So thank you, Sarah. I know that you'll message me and say that you've heard this. And I hope that you do. But it just goes to show, you start a page or you start doing something, and then when it actually starts to do, you don't actually think it's going to do anything. And then when it actually starts to do something, the fear that creeps in is unbelievable. Because I'm not saying I'm going to be really famous from doing this, by the way. Like, I do not rate myself in that way. But it is weird when people start seeing you and all of a sudden you become a big part of like their algorithm and they're just watching your stories. And it's not that you're a big part of their day. It's not really even that they think of you, but it's like you're suddenly this familiar face that they see. I don't know. It's really bizarre. I don't know if you'd understand unless you create content, but I guess you don't really need to. I'm just really happy that you're here and that I get to talk to you. And hopefully, this is like a little safe space for you just to come and relax and chill, because I know that life can get absolutely crazy. And sometimes you don't feel like there's an outlet or an out, and you just need the pressure to relieve off you. This is my why. I think this is why I started doing the stories because I love it. And I continue to do the podcast because it feels like I'm getting comments saying like, you've got me through a hard year. I've really loved listening to your stories. It's got me through a hard time. That just means a lot. And I think that will always be my why, because I love connecting with people and that's genuine. And someone wrote to me saying, I just feel like you're a genuine person. And that, it's so lovely for someone to be able to pick that up through the screen, because I actually don't have any agenda. Yes, I would like to make money. Who the hell wouldn't like to make money? Can I do it doing this? I have no idea, to be honest with you. I know that other people have, but I started this because I love it. And I started it because it's from a genuine place. I hope that you guys can feel that anyway. Anyway, I'm rambling. I'm going to go eat I've got to go cook my jacket potato before I eat it. Anyway, have a beautiful rest of your day. Whatever day I've managed to get this out on, I hope you enjoy it. I hope the sun is shining for you. I hope you've got a fan near you, because it's absolutely bloody roasting. You guys are the absolute best. Thank you for listening, and I'll catch you in the next one.